there guys, welcome to Books Done Mind, Body and Soul. My name is Tim and today we are going to be talking specifically about depression. Now, the reason that I want to do this is because I have depression. I've had depression for many years and roughly half of my life since I was originally diagnosed with depression. And it helps to be able to explain to people who have perhaps never encountered depression in their lives, never experienced it firsthand, as to exactly what these things feel like, because you can go and read a definition on depression or anxiety or any of these mental health conditions, but you don't know what it's like to actually feel that condition. So what I have done is I've gone onto the NHS website, and there are a bunch of symptoms that are written on the NHS website. I'm from the UK, so the NHS website is the main place where we are going to get information about medical conditions. So if you go onto the NHS website and you type in symptoms of depression, you'll find this page which outlines a bunch of symptoms of depression. I'm going to go through each of the symptoms in turn. I'm going to go through like a couple in a video that I've kind of lumped together so that they're very similar, and what that actually feels like, because it's all well and good sort of reading on the page saying depression is feeling sad, but what does that actually feel like? Because everybody in the world feels sad at some point in their lives, but what actually does it mean to have depression? So if this is something that interests you, then please do subscribe to the channel. We're going to be posting health and well-being content every fortnight here on the channel, and we're going to be covering all of these symptoms of depression and symptoms of anxiety, because these are two things which I can talk from experience for over the course of the next few months. Not everything that we do on the channel is going to be purely depression related. We're going to be doing physical health as well and stuff like that. But yeah, we're going to have a lot going on in this on this channel. So the three symptoms that I've chosen for today are probably the simplest and most broadest in terms of what the NHS website says and what people assume that depression is who don't have depression. So NHS website states symptoms of depression include continuous low mood or sadness, feeling hopeless and helpless, and feeling tearful. Those are the three that we're going to be covering today. So those are three individually listed things on there. So first of all, let me explain a little bit about my experience with depression and how I'm going to be talking about these things in this video. So with depression, I experience good days and bad days. I tend to call my bad days low mood days because everybody can have a bad day. Specifically when it is depression, I call it a low mood day, and that allows me to separate it from my anxiety, where I will call that a high anxiety day. And essentially I will wake up in these moods. Now, things can happen to cause a low mood day during the day. Something could happen and it makes me drop in mood significantly. But for the most part, I will wake up and it kind of feels like there's a blanket over my face, and that blanket is kind of like a see-through black material in a way. It's like, you know, there's outlines that I can kind of see in front of me, but for the most part it's darkness. And I know on those sorts of days the world seems a little bit dimmer around me. The world seems a little bit darker, and I know that on that day I've woken up, and usually within the first sort of 10 minutes of being awake in the morning, I can walk downstairs and I can kind of know that today's going to be a bad day. Today's going to be a low mood day. And it kind of manifests itself into different ways. And one of the ways is this continuous low mood or sadness, feeling hopeless and helpless, and feeling tearful. Okay, so me personally, the tearful part, I'm going to address that one first. The tearful part happens rarely for me. It is not something that happens a lot, but every now and again, for no reason, I certainly cannot hold back kind of the floodgates from opening, and me just needing to have a cry about something. And there's doesn't have to be a reason for it. It just happens. Or like you can be just going about your daily business and just suddenly feel the tears starting to build, and there's no particular reason why that has happened. Certainly, if you then do get a bit of bad news or a bit of an issue with anything, then you're really going to have a problem with it. You're going to struggle to hold it back. So you get a particularly bad bit of news that's not enough that would normally send you over into the edge of crying. You may cry from it and stuff like that. Now, as I said, everybody feels tearful at some point. Everybody gets sad. Everybody gets upset about things, particularly if you were to get like a really bad piece of news. If you were to learn that a family member or a friend has passed away, or you were to lose your job or something like that. Those extreme things that happen, unfortunately happen, then it's completely understandable for anybody that the happiest person in the world who's never experienced depression will cry from that. That doesn't mean that they've got depression. It means that they're sad, and that's absolutely fine. Emotions are fine. But when it's persistent and there's no real explanation for it, that's when you know that there's something going on. So if I wake up and I am feeling tearful, but I've got no particular reason for it, in terms of the fact that I've not received some terrible news, I'm not under a massive amount of stress, I'm not in pain or anything like that, I'm just feeling these things for no particular reason, and there's no way of me bringing myself out of it, or it's a very difficult task to bring myself out of it, then that's when I know that's depression. That's the depression. That's not emotion. That's not human emotion. That's depression. Same with the continuous low mood and sadness. We all feel sad, and we all know what it feels like. The majority of people in the world know what it feels like to feel sad. They have felt it at some point. They've certainly felt it when they were a child. And as they're growing up, and as certain things happen throughout their lives, a breakup happens, you feel sad about it. But this continuous low mood and sadness in depression is different. It is different. The way that I always like to describe it, I use two analogies, and the first one that I used was that one that I said earlier, is that there is a blanket over my face. There's a black cloth that just descends over my face. Actually, there's three analogies that I'm going to use for you. There's a black cloth that just descends over my face, and sometimes you can kind of see it kind of come down over your eyes, or at least I can envision this darkness come down over my eyes and kind of take over as this is your mood has just dropped, and there's kind of nothing that you can do about it. It's a strange experience when you do see that happen, because it's a very physical thing. This is something that I see happen. I see my mood drop, and everything around me looks darker. So today is not a bad day for me. It's not a bad day for me. So everything seems that little bit brighter. I open the curtains up in the morning and I look around, and everything seems a little bit brighter and a little bit more, even though it's kind of a dull day outside. I'm kind of looking out the window here, it's a dull day outside, there's not a whole lot of sky that I can see, everything still feels a little bit brighter than when I have those low mood days. The second analogy that I use is an emptiness. So sadness can be a painful thing when you go through sadness, and you hear about somebody passing away or something like that. You go through a bad breakup. It's a physical pain in your chest. People say that they experience this pain in their chest, and the reason that we sort of say our heart is breaking is because we feel that physical pain that is in our chest. Your heart's not actually breaking, but it feels like your heart is clenching up and there's that tightness and pain within there. Depression is different. Depression feels like an emptiness in your chest. So there's been a number of times this is on a really low mood day. I'll be going about my business, I'll be going about my day, and there's like a hole in the center of my chest, like there's no organs or anything else in there. It is just simply a hole that cannot be filled. It cannot be, you can't fill it in. No amount of love or affection or support or anything like that can fill it. It is there. It is like a black hole, like it's sucking all of that energy out of you, like it's sucking all of that emotion out of you and just leaving this empty husk within you. And it's almost like a I don't know, like a deflating balloon or something that's kind of left a gap, left a space within there after it's kind of deflated down. And like I say, you can get that support from people. You can have people talking to you. You can be given. You can go to a comedy show and even laugh along with things going on around you, but you will still feel that emptiness within. So there's a big difference between sadness and depression in terms of how you feel. Now, this is just my personal experience with things. Everybody experiences things different, and they might not be able to tell the difference between sadness and depression, but for me, I certainly can. And the other operative word in this definition is continuous. So this is not something that happens for, you know, you can be sad for a day, you can be sad for a couple of days, and that's normal. Certainly, you know, to use an example, last year, 2023, I learned that one of my favourite professional wrestlers died, Bray Wyatt. I was sad for a couple of days after that because I'd never get to see him wrestle again, and I thought that he was like a creative genius when it came to wrestling. So I was sad that I would never get to experience that again, sad that I never got to watch him live. But after a few days, you kind of pull through it. You realise this is a part of life, and you pull through it. And bereavement is, even for a celebrity, bereavement is it's a very real thing. But this is continuous. Depression is continuous. It doesn't go away. And this is the unfortunate thing that I kind of have to say. Like, I used to say I was diagnosed with depression when I was 18, but I had it for a little while before that, from when I was 17. And I had a period of about 5 years where I was far improved from where I was. If I started down here, I was way up here where I was riding high. And then the crash happens, and I go back to probably worse than where I was. But for those 5 years, I used to say I beat depression. I used to say I beat it. Unfortunately, depression will always be there in my life. I'm always going to be susceptible to these low moods. I'm always going to be susceptible to this sadness, this emptiness inside, this black cloth going over my face. The other analogy, by the way, is waking up and there's a brick wall over your face. It's kind of more of a motivation analogy, but certainly that's another one that I use. But yeah, I said that I beat it. I said that I beat depression. I'd come off my antidepressants. I wasn't on them anymore. Didn't need them anymore. 5 good years where I was happy. And then the crash happened, and I dropped in mood massively. And there wasn't necessarily a huge trigger for this. I did go through a breakup, But people can go through breakups all the time, they get sad and then they get through it. This dropped my mood for years, and I've never fully recovered back from that again. And this is 5-6 years ago that this drop happened. No, longer. 7 years since that drop happened. Through things that I can't explain, and it just dropped me down. So here I am many years later, and even if I went through that 5-year period of riding high again and feeling so much better than I do now and that I did before, I'll never say that I beat depression. I will always say that I have depression, because I do. It's a part of my life. It's a part of my life, and it will come back. There's a high likelihood that it will come back, and it's something that I have to try and control throughout my life and how I go about things. Let's talk about the last thing now. Feeling hopeless and helpless. Now, I've just talked about something which sounds very permanent, and it is. It's very permanent. I think we all, when we've got depression and we're going through that mood, we all realise and we all have a moment where we feel like this is never going to go away. I'm never going to feel better. I'm never going to improve. I'm always going to be at this rock bottom level, which that's not true. You will have better days than that, but I'm always going to have this rock bottom level that I'm going to stay at forever, and this is my life now. And you feel like nobody can help that. Nobody can help that. You can't help that. There's no hope for it. There's no hope for you. You are depressed. That is it. There's your life. You are now depressed, and you will remain depressed forever. That's not the case. Now, like I say, there is a difference between, I have good days and I have bad days. My good days, I will say, my good days never hit what somebody else's good days might. My good days will be good. A little bit better than fine. You know, fine is kind of you're existing and you're not necessarily feeling low, but you're also not necessarily feeling all that positive. I will have days where I feel a little bit positive, but you get people who are absolutely ecstatic for things and they can enjoy their life and things like that, and I find very little enjoyment in these things. But having those days where I have a good day and it's better than fine is incredible compared to where I was. I was down at that rock bottom. I have had those suicidal thoughts. I have had those thoughts where I do not care about whether I live or die. And there is hope. There is hope. And when you experience it and you come forward, you can then use that in the future, because you know that you've come through before and you have improved before. Depression might always be there, and there's always a chance of you slipping back down. But the hope is that you can bring yourself up through support, through other people being around you, through your hobbies, through your interests, through keeping yourself busy. These are things that you can do. And there's always help out there. There are help. There's just lots of different channels that you can help with. So if you go to the NHS, if you go to your GP, they are supposed to help you. If they do not help you, go find somebody else. Go to another GP. Request a different doctor than your usual doctor. If they do not help, somebody else will. But you've got to fight for it. And you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to. I've been very fortunate. Whenever I've gone to a GP with my depression, they've been very, very understanding. They've sent me through to the correct referrals. They've potentially put me on the correct medications. If I'm not on the correct medications, they've changed my medications. and all of that is positive, but you might not get that. And I've heard stories of people going to a GP and they just didn't understand, and certain GPs don't, but the majority do. So go and see a GP. You've got various well-being clinics that you can go to. There are an increasing number of talking groups that are open. You can just go to them and you'll be able to find them on like events in Facebook and stuff like that, where people can go and they can sit around and have chats and talk about their mental health and talk about their partner's mental health and things like that. They just want to understand a little bit more about it. You can do that. There are plenty of charities out there which specialize in mental health disorders. So, you know, you think about Mind, you think about Samaritans, all of these things, all of the Calm. You can go to these charities and they will point you in the right direction of somebody who you can talk to, somebody who understands, and somebody who can guide you through it. There's friends and family. We're in an era nowadays where depression is so much more rife, so much more out there. I couldn't talk about this. I couldn't talk about this in the past on YouTube without getting slandered, without you know, people just being in the comments saying, "Oh, man up. What do you know about feeling sad? I feel sad more than you. You never fought in the war," or anything like that. No, it's not. We're in a society now where you can talk more, you can talk more freely, you can talk more openly. So use that avenue. You've got friends around you, you've got family around you, or I hope that you do. If you do not, then go and seek a professional, because it is something that you can get through, but you do need help and you do need support in order to do it. And then you can learn avenues in which way, you know, ways that you can try and face these low mood days and face these problems. And this channel is going to include stuff like that on there as well. So that is my explanation of those 3 symptoms. We will be going through more symptoms in the future when it comes to like reading off the NHS website and explaining exactly what the NHS is trying to tell you that you can feel like when you have depression. This will help, hopefully, people who are new to the idea, who may be coming to terms with the idea that they've got depression. If that is the case, then please do go and seek medical advice and they'll be able to guide you through things. It also will help people who are, maybe their partner or their child, or they're exhibiting signs and symptoms of depression, and it gives you an insight. If you've never had it yourself, it's impossible to be able to understand what they're feeling, but hopefully with this I can try and help. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I really do hope that you have a fantastic couple of weeks. Until the next video, I'll see you next time.